What up, Saint? I just realized I wanted to make the middle part 3. Maybe that's not a good idea. Let's not do that actually. Maybe make the middle part 3 blocks. Ooh, got some clay. I'm surprised there isn't like a Exanima Terraria server. Like, what are you guys doing? This is basically Exanima. It's like you can build Exanima in this game. Even has jiggle physics. Oh, it's a cave. Wow. Glad zombies are too stupid to climb ropes. Oh, wow. This goes all the way to the surface. Block this up. Got some cobwebs. This could be useful. I'm a pro at this game, Saint. That's what you're supposed to do. Let's see what's down here. Let's go get this ore first. It's like a lot of ore here. Okay. Are you saying you're a real gamer, Saint? We'll section this area off a bit. Make things easier to explore. Fuck. Not much, just some copper. This is interesting. Got a minecart. Ooh, there's a life crystal down there. We need that. Ooh, there's a trap on the minecart there. It's not good. Ah, fuck. Okay, we need to get this life crystal. Let's go block this off so we don't get slimes coming at us. And here too. never-ending slimes, I swear. Damn, this cave goes on forever. Let's go explore the upper section first. Oh. That's pretty cool. There's like a skeleton down here. Can I break this and get anything? No, I can't. Okay. Unfortunate. I need a grappling hook. Don't have a grappling hook yet. Literally goes on forever. Wait, it actually like connects up here. Yeah. Okay. There's another entrance to the surface over here. So get rid of these first. There's even more shit up there. Oh my god. I came from here, didn't I? Yeah, I have. Let's keep working on an elevator. Getting distracted. Oh, we got some copper. Damn. Yeah, take a break from this elevator. It's a bit of a grind. Play some Kenji. More fun to AFK on Kenji. Get some training done. Graphics. Ooh, God. Okay, hold on. Everything is stretched. I can feel the unoptimization. Ah. How did I get it working in widescreen again? Okay, this looks better. I think I already looted these. Oh. Some tech hunters. Something's happening over here. Ooh, a lot of something's happening. This guy has a 500 bounty. Pick him up. Oh, what's this? Let's go loot this guy first. Ninja rag standard. We can sell this. Mm. It'd be nice to sell this. Let's go patch him up so he isn't dying, and then we'll turn him in. Oh. Eyes picked him up. Let's try looting this. Can. Oh, has nothing.
Patrons for making this video possible, especially Anonsis Tricks. He is the trickster of his culture. He brings enlightenment and new ideas by subverting the norms and shifting the paradigms. Thank you so much, Anonsis Tricks. I'd like to talk today about joy in the art practice and its place in it, and if it's important at all. It's a complicated question. So some of you, it may seem like something that doesn't need to be debated at all, or something that doesn't even need to be questioned. Of course, joy is essential. Why would you do this if you weren't feeling joy while drawing and making art? Unfortunately, things are not so simple. Because if you have hung out online or hung out with artists anywhere for any period of time, you have likely encountered, like I have, over and over and over again, people for whom the joy has vanished. It is gone. Maybe it was there before, maybe it was never there, but it's certainly not present now, and yet they feel a compulsion to continue drawing and making art. This complicates the situation tremendously, and it's very difficult to tease out from this tangle of emotions, this terrifying briar of self-loathing and confusion and frustration, what we should do about joy. You know, probably the extremes are not useful to us here. Some people will hear this and their gut will immediately go to, well, if you're not having fun and you are hating making art the whole time that you do it, maybe you shouldn't be doing it. And that's a simple answer. I appreciate the simplicity and clarity of that answer as much as anybody else does, but I don't think it's quite right. I really don't. I think that to a certain extent, the brute fact that this human being who is either not enjoying this or outright hating the drawing practice is still doing it for some reason probably makes it worth looking for a more nuanced accounting of why this is happening and whether or not it's advisable, something that you should push through, something that you should fight with and grapple with. It raises many other horrifying questions like, can it be changed? Can someone for whom the practice has been extremely painful for a long time, maybe forever, can that change for them? Can the joy either return or arise in their practice? And then, if it can, should that then be the goal? Should it be the only goal? If it is the goal, where do we draw the line for how long someone should attempt to bring the joy back? Is it after 6 months if they still hate it? They should accept that it was a sunk cost and go do something else. Is it after a year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, 15 years? What would it be? Where would you draw the line? And then what if that wasn't the only goal? What if we say, yes, you can assuredly go ahead in an art practice that you will feel deeply uncomfortable about the whole time, where there is no joy. If that is something we might advise someone to do, what then become their end goals? Is the point of their practice all about the product? Is it worth the suffering if the final product brings them, maybe not joy, but let's say satisfaction? Does the end justify the means in that case? I don't know, but I think we should explore it a bit. Like any complicated discussion like this, I want to start with a couple disclaimers. So I personally don't think joy and the moment-to-moment feeling is everything about art, but I think it's up there. I think it's very, very close to being absolutely everything. I think the most important thing about the art experience for the artist is that pictures get made. When I look at the wide variety of practices that people have and the emotional and mental turmoil that their practices put them through, it seems that the most universal problem is that if you don't make pictures, you go crazy. So that is what makes me say that making pictures is probably the most important thing. And like I said, there's plenty of people who really don't like doing it anymore. They do not like drawing. They will tell you straight up, I am drawing with some regularity. I'm doing it a certain number of hours a day and I just loathe it. I really hate it. And it's nothing but frustration and sadness. And yet they still do it. They come back to it. Now, I can't speak for everybody. It comes down to each individual, but to me, from the outside, that makes clear that for them, it is more important that drawing happen at all than that it be a pleasure or that they be incentivized to do it. Because a lot of these people, we're also talking, a lot of these people are not people who do this for work. These are not people who are getting paid to draw. These are people who are choosing to invest their valuable free time in something that they will claim brings them great unhappiness, right? So it might be something like a dark version of exercise, for example, where exercise hurts in a very particular sense. It doesn't necessarily feel pleasant all the time, though. If you've exercised any amount, you know there's plenty of it that feels pleasant, but you are breaking down your body. You're putting it through exertion, and you're happy that you did it, and you like that you're doing it, even if the moment to moment endeavor is not necessarily nice. But I'll be honest, God, even that analogy, which seemed so direct for a moment, it really, if you talk with people who suffer from this, it really is not enough. Because, yeah, I think it's really hard to get a good sweat going without feeling good. But with this drawing thing, we are talking about people for whom it doesn't matter if they've been drawing for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. They hate it the whole time. It's always bad. It never gets good. And it doesn't have the character of exertion. It has the character of existential suffering. Very different thing. I don't think I've ever experienced existential suffering during a workout, but maybe someone has. So this is very troubling. Why would they do this? Why would they put themselves through existential suffering in some sort of driven, compulsory way, if not that it's more important that drawings get made at all than that they feel good while they come out? So I put that at number one. Drawings need to happen for artists. I don't know how to explain that. My gut says that there really is some sort of deeply ingrained primordial aspect to the creative impulse. And it affects us in ways that a lot of other things don't. It really, if we're the kind of person who has that impulse, it seems that restraining it or not indulging it rots the soul. I don't know how else to put it, but it really makes people neurotic, scared, delusional, confused, anxious, deeply, deeply anxious. It's an extremely damaging condition to be in. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, not my worst enemies. But if we take it from that viewpoint, it kind of puts us in a difficult situation, doesn't it? If we say, if you have an artistic impulse, the best thing you can do for your health is make pictures with regularity, even if it feels horrible, right? Because the alternative is even worse, right? It's just a lesser of two evils kind of choice. This really puts us in a very uncomfortable trap. This means that this person is supposed to suffer through this for the rest of their life through no choice of their own. They really have no recourse on this particular point in their life that's going to absorb hours and hours and hours and hours. Now, unfortunately, here I might have to resort to some wishful thinking. I don't know how to put it. It might just be a fact that for some people, that will be their life. They will forever wish they were making pictures. And if they don't do it, they will go mad. And if they do it, they will find the experience of making pictures insufferable. This sounds crazy to say, but it's just, there's so many people. I'm sure you will see some people in the comments who say, yes, I've been there, I lived through that. So that may just be the case. But like I said, I might have to indulge in some wishful thinking here. I don't think you need to be trapped in that. I think there are things you can do. There are things you can look at
This
very
is not
closely
Terraria.
about your
No, it's
internal
not. It's Kenshi.
experience of making art that can push the needle on these things just a little bit at a time and start making things better. I can't accept it. I can't accept the idea that there would be nothing to be done about this situation, that you would just be damned to that dark side of the creative experience forever. I can't hack it. I feel like it is absolutely true that you can change it. And I say that from personal experience, right? Because I've gone through periods that I would say were very dark and miserable in my art practice, to say the least. They weren't long enough in terms of the whole arc for them to really characterize my relationship with drawing, but there's definitely been those parts. So I know how they feel, and I know that progress can be made, because at least a few of them, very particular ones that I can remember, those periods did not end just because I cycled out of them. They ended because I looked at things differently. I changed something about how I'm thinking about all of this stuff, which is a very interesting idea on its own. How does that function? How do you change your own mind about things, especially if you're doing it all through contemplation and investigating yourself instead of taking on faith something that someone outside of you says or something like that. So I do definitely believe that there's things that can be done here to improve the situation. But before we look at anything specific like that, and really, I'm not sure we have to, because so much of the content of this channel is focused on the specifics of what you can do to improve that. The real question I want to grapple with here is, why would you want to? Because as counterintuitive as it can seem for someone like me, some people don't think the joy is important, or at least implicitly they don't. Maybe if you ask them outright, they would say, of course it's important that you feel good while you work, whatever, but they don't spend a second of their day prioritizing that or doing anything to ensure that. Whereas I think, conversely, you really should really pay attention whenever the joy is lacking, whenever the dark shadow of boring mediocrity crawls over your mind and starts to cloud everything that you're doing and rains its boring acid rain onto your art. I think that that's basically priority number one as soon as it arises, and that it should be dealt with immediately, barring anything like, you're working for money or whatever. That's different. Then yeah, go get paid or whatever. But if that's not the case, you really should prioritize it, to the point that I honestly think it's perfectly fine at that point to drop the pencil for a minute, investigate the character of what's going on with you, and even if you can't dispel it, disentangle it, or discharge it in that moment, feel it with as much accuracy and clarity as you possibly can. And then if you did dispel it, great. It's weird how emotions tend to go away once you investigate them full on, if you just dive into them. But even if it doesn't go away, if you just felt it very clearly, then pick up the pencil and keep going, right? Don't let it unhorse you in your endeavors. But you want to, instead of feeling those things, those dark clouds, as very vague, ominous feelings of failure and dread, you want to look at them full face, stare the beast right in its eyes. Or, considering this audience, it's a xenomorph, right? It's Giger's horrifying alien with the dripping teeth and the phallic tongue and head, all sorts of stuff. It's all just
Ooh, phallic.
just stare that thing in the face, listen to its blood-curdling screech, and accept it. Accept its presence and your inevitable death. Let it
Screeching
wash
phallus.
over you and exalt as you are lifted easily into the rafters of the spaceship. Sorry, I'm getting off track here. Just let it wash. Let it flow over you. Let the feeling consume you with no resistance, right? And a
Oh,
reminder
let the
for a minute,
screeching
just for a
phallus
minute, right?
consume
I'm not
me.
telling you
No
to
resistance.
indulge in the darkness and the pain for any protracted period of time, just for a minute, put everything down. Stop for a second. And don't resist. Don't fight. Say, well, this is an experience too. This is a feeling. This is a very dark feeling. Let us feel the character of this feeling as full as we can. Let that happen for a minute. At first, that can be super scary and it can feel like a lot. But the truth is that for most people, it's the resistance that is creating most of the pain, right? And to simply let the feeling wash over you and to feel it with a great amount of clarity is, again, for most people, synonymous with a moment of peace until the resistance returns, right? If you are very habituated to resisting these feelings, it's very hard to turn the resistance off for more than a second or 2 seconds at a time. But as you increase your mindfulness with doing this and feel the wave with ever more accuracy, I think you will find, if you investigate, that
Got some dead
the moment
skimmers
of
here.
dread is actually the moment that the resistance returns, not the moment of letting the wave of that particular feeling overwhelm you, right? Of letting it wash over you. Overwhelm was the wrong word there. If you feel overwhelmed, stop. Go play video games or something like that. But anything below overwhelmed, the feeling is just the feeling. It's just energy, right? It's just a flavor to experience, to the experience of making art in this moment. So that's a starting point. Investigate the dread moment to moment and ask yourself, what is my relationship to this dread? Is it useful to me at all? Does it contribute anything to the practice? No, it only hurts me. Right? At least I'm going to assume your answer would be no. It's not very helpful. The problem is that a lot of people, like I said, they can offer that up. They can say that if you ask them, but they will not do the action. They will not actually sit with their feelings when they arise. They will just take it as a given that these things are here and that the problem is huge and that they do not know how to overcome this and that this whole thing is going to swallow them. But they will not act. They will not take it seriously in the actionable sense. They will assume there is nothing they can do. And I think that that is a very dangerous assumption. If you are the kind of person who is dealing with this and has come to assume there is nothing they can do about it, or that what they need do is something outside of their mind, right? Like it won't go away until you're good at drawing frogs or fingers or whatever it is, I would advise you to rewind a little bit. Just take a few steps backwards. Let's undo the knots of a few assumptions. Let's rewind like 5 assumptions. And let's go back to the point where we thought, all right, there's nothing I can do, or the thing that I need to do to fix this is something outside of me, and let's table that. What if there is something that you can do? And what if it's not anything to do with what's outside, the art, or something going on with the art? What if it is things that are internal? What if it is a shift in the relationship to these feelings and what you demand and insist on from your art? I saw a comment a couple days ago on something that I was speaking on, and the nature of the comment was something like, I wish people didn't tell me I couldn't do such and such in art because I didn't have these high levels of passion and motivation. I understand that sentiment, but I also want to ask the question, like, what is keeping you from experiencing your work as happily as you might ever hope for? The answer is nothing, right? Art doesn't involve necessarily anyone else or anyone else's opinion or the world's opinion or culture's opinion. That is all something we add. Those are dressings, right? If you choose them, they're beautiful. But the problem is that a lot of artists don't choose them, right? A lot of artists assume that the nature of art is intimately linked to the opinions of others, the opinions of the world, and the opinions of the art culture. Wrong. That's just a game. That's another one of the great games that we play on this world. That's just a particular fun thing that some group of people want to do, and there's all these little rules, and someone makes the rules, and when people get upset, they take their ball home. That's just another one of those things. But it is not the real nature of art. The real nature of art comes before that, and it is utterly and completely personal and your own. It has nothing to do with anybody else or anything else. It's only you. And you can't get in the way of yourself. You think you can. You can put yourself in an Ouroboros snake biting its own tail situation where you think you're your own worst enemy, and you invent the adversary, a dark shadow you who lives within and exists only to sabotage you. But none of that is real. None of that is real. You're just you. It's just difficult to parse because you are a much larger totality than you can guess. You might be horrifyingly larger. You might be everything, but we could talk about that another time. So the point is, you can't get in your own way. There's nowhere for a you who's not you to get in the way of the very personal experience of your art. It is actually free to flow completely. So there is no reason at all why you shouldn't experience your practice in whatever way you choose, right? Mind you, here, I totally accept and understand that the choice is yours, right? So here's a list of valid ways to feel about your art by choice. It's boring, uninteresting, mediocre, banal. Nobody wants to look at it. I don't want to look at it. I hate it. It means nothing. It's a dumpster fire. It is beneath even the notice of the lowest worms in the dirt. All of those are perfectly valid ways for you to choose to interact with your art practice.
Oh, they're fighting something over
Here
there.
are other valid choices.
Oh my god. Look at all those
incredible.
people.
It makes me feel balanced. It is me connecting
Fresh
with
meat.
some part of myself that I don't understand. It is a great mystery. It teaches me things. It makes me happy. It gives me joy unbounded. All of those are on the table as well. Now, they're all, I know it sounds like I'm charging them. I am. I'm charging them one way or the other. But when I investigate what I really believe, there is no moral valence to either choice, right? There's no choice on the spectrum, the infinite spectrum of how you want to experience your art practice is better than the other. My question to you is, if everything is available, why are you picking the mediocrity, right? Now, the obvious answer there is, Stephen, I don't get to pick, right? Stephen, I'm one of the people who gets really angry in the comments when you say that free will doesn't exist, but still, when you ask me this, I'm going to say, oh, I don't get to pick. That's not up to me. I don't get to choose my preferences, and I don't get to determine what kind of mind I have, but I totally have free will. I get that. But I don't think, because I don't believe in free will, I don't think that any of this is something that is quote unquote chosen by picking yourself up by your own bootstraps. All of this is chosen by exposure to conditioning factors, to things that you have heard, experienced, read that make you inclined to believe something is possible, right? So what I'm really asking is, why do you think it is impossible for you to feel better about your work? I hate to say it, but tell me who hurt you. Was it mom, dad? Was it yourself? It's probably yourself, right? It tends to be the answer for a lot of artists. What's doing that? What is in there that has trained you to believe that the way you feel about reaching into your own mind and making real things unknown is mediocre? Is that you feel like it's, oh, I don't have passion. I don't feel motivated by it. It's just blah, it's whatever. What made you think that? Did you maybe have friends in high school where whenever you got too passionate or something like that, they called you a mean name or called you a nerd or something like that?
What's going on?
Did those friends sort of like stall
Someone's
out
trying to pick
and
them up.
not do other things after high school?
Let's go grab
What was it?
this.
What experiential factors are convincing you that you don't get to move on this?
That one's empty.
What experiential factors
I think they both
are
looted.
producing the feeling when you hear me say, pick something different, pick joy instead? What is back there in your head that is creating the boulder that says, thou shalt not pick anything else? This is the truth. We feel mediocre and bland and upset about
What the
this.
fuck?
What is it? Now, I'm not being rhetorical.
There's
I
some
really want you to go ask yourself
bit
what
dangerous.
it is. What is it? Really
We'll pick
find
that up later.
what it is. I do think there's stuff there. Maybe there
Knowledge
isn't,
of
but
the
I think
armor
for most
smith.
people there will be. Go investigate. Dig back in your memory. Do some automatic writing, some journaling. Let stuff flow. Don't judge it. Just put things down on the paper. Seek what it is, why you think I can't be right, why I couldn't possibly be right, or why you think it's unimportant if I'm right or wrong. Find out what it is. Just be more specific about it. If you find a perfectly cogent, rational argument for why you should feel mediocre, unmotivated, and uninterested in this thing that you are dumping so much effort and time into, great. I'm happy for you. I love that you have that opinion so solid, right? I value the variety of opinions that are out there in art and the variety of experiences. I'm only gratified to hear that you have it so solid in hand that you can write it down, that you can say with clear argumentation why Stephen is wrong and why it doesn't matter, and that it's perfectly fine and good for you, and what you want is to feel unmotivated and disinterested in this, even though you are putting so much effort into it and you're watching videos about it and talking about it and listening to content about it, right? I'd love to hear it. It'd be interesting to see what the mental formulation is. But if you cannot get it well in hand, if the writing becomes confusing and you cannot offer solid reasons for why Stephen must be wrong, why it must be impossible to change the way that you feel about your art, why you cannot choose joy, if you cannot find good reasons for that, I would just sit with that for a while. Don't tell me. I can't help you. Just sit with it. Sit with it for days. Spend a couple minutes here and there thinking about it. What does that mean? What does it mean that there is no solid, substantial pebble, rock, or boulder in the way of you moving freely to and fro on the spectrum of feelings that are available for the art practice? What does that really mean if you take it seriously? What does it mean that anything is available to you at all times? Does that make it more significant? Less significant? What would it mean for you if you could choose joy anytime? What would it mean for you if the feelings that were arising moment to moment in the art practice weren't super significant? If any of them could be equally chosen at any time? Would it just seem boring? So boring you'd be like, fuck it, I'll just feel good all the time then. It doesn't sound so bad, does it?
That's called
if you
drugs.
are the kind of artist who right now feels that they are practicing and making art joylessly for some reason, right? You have a reason, right? That I doubt that you could offer no reason, right? Whatever it is, it's something you could write down or send me in an email or whatever, right? I feel trapped by this. I'm too busy thinking about this. I'm not making this kind of something, right? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. That part's actually unimportant. Next time you walk into your studio or up to your desk or wherever the heck it is you draw, I want you to just walk into it. Before you open the door or before you approach the desk, I want you to just take a deep breath, and just feel your body. Just feel it standing there. Just feel your feet touching the ground. Feel the shape of your body in space. Notice that your whole field of vision is just a flat 2D plane of colors and shapes and lines and light. And then just notice that your thoughts run like a stock ticker tape through your brain from one ear to the next. They come from nowhere and they go nowhere. And they are unbidden and uncontrolled by you.
Finally have
Instead of wishing
10,000.
that you could stop that, instead of wishing that you could turn that off while you sit down to draw, just recognize briefly that there is a part of you that is noticing that the thoughts run like a stock ticker tape. Just accept them. Accept that they're going to be there. Accept that they will come and go, and accept that they are not you. That there's always going to be the other part of you that sees them, that notices that they are like the ticker tape. And then sit down at your desk and draw. And when I say just draw, I don't mean that nothing else is happening, that there's no thoughts coming and going, there's no feelings arising and then passing away, there's no distractions. That's not what I mean. I mean, the only action that you're doing is you're drawing. The thoughts that come and go, the energetic spikes that arise and pass, they're all just happening on that second monitor in your peripheral vision. That is your internality. Just let them go. Just don't look over there. When things flicker over there, when your doppelganger darts across the room into a corner in the edges of your vision, just don't look. It's all right. There's nothing interesting there. You already know what's there. You've been basing your whole life off of interfacing with what's there. Just give it an hour where it leaps up, but you don't, okay, I don't need to react to anything right now. If any thought, no matter how positive or wicked, comes up, it's exactly where it's supposed to be. Of course it showed up. Why wouldn't it? They always show up. Doesn't matter how evil, how dark. If it arose, that's perfect. Right.
Am I listening to Bob Ross? No, I'm listening to
let it linger.
Steven
It walks
Zapata.
around. It's like,
This is
oh,
the-
it's
this is the
lovely
video.
here today. I see you're trying to be productive. You know,
He has some.
I had an idea that maybe you could spend the whole day hating yourself instead. I don't know if
He
you're
has
any
some good
interest in that.
insights
You just nod.
into art.
You nod, and you stare at the thought until the thought gets a little bit uncomfortable, and it's like, did you hear me? I said maybe we could hate ourselves all day instead. Just nod. Don't say a word. Just stare. Stare at the thought. I mean, your hand is still moving on the paper, but your homunculus that lives inside your head is just staring at the thought. Stare and nod. Till the thoughts like, you're acting really weird, man. Is everything okay? Why aren't you saying anything? Hello?
The normal?
Okay, I don't know what
Wait,
your
which
game
one is?
here. You're acting really strange. All right? I don't come here for no reason. You know, it takes me a long
Is this
time to
the,
get here
lower
from
level
the
or
mystery
the
behind your
higher?
eyes.
Okay, is it the lower level?
Hello? You know what, man? I'll come back.
Oh, I wasn't not able to post the link.
Sort yourself out. Good.
I'll just type his
And
name in
and if
the.
Libido is at the door, I'm gonna tell him to come in. So
I'll type out his
and that's all
channel
you
name
do.
here.
You didn't say anything mean to the thought. You didn't yell at the
Steven
thought
Zapata Art.
to leave
That's what I'm listening to.
or to do anything. All you did was listen, like a good friend. You just listened. You listened so much and so openly that the thought got uncomfortable with itself and didn't find anywhere to grip. And then it did what it was going to do anyway, it left. I want you to try it. Just try it. Don't just listen to this. Please don't just listen to this. Try it. Please try
He
it.
does have
Actually do it.
kind
I
of
know
like
it
a Bob
sounds
Ross thing
crazy,
going on,
and I
isn't
know
he?
that our
He
culture
has like
conditions us to be
it's more like
really,
a
really resistant to
it's more
doing
like
anything
a
even a
younger,
little odd to
slightly
help
more
ourselves.
edgy,
But
more
if
passionate
that's
Bob
what this is going to
Ross
be, like, you are screwed.
crossed with like
Of
some
course
kind
you're
of
never going to do
therapy.
it. Who's going to tell you to do anything to fix this? Nobody. Everyone in your life is going to tell you, well, maybe draw less or something like that. Like everyone's going to tell you to just stop torturing yourself, right?
Yeah, I think
Only
he
other
works at
artists
Riot
are
or
going to
something,
get
so he
that
does
if you
have some
don't
useful
do this,
insights to listen to.
your soul is going to turn into a tiny blue bird and leave your body. So please do something, anything. Try it. Try it. Don't worry, you're not really doing anything on the
Motivational
outside, right?
speaker.
On the outside, you just look like you walked into your
Yeah.
studio and you sat down in your desk and you started drawing. But on the inside, you're also not really doing anything, right? You're just listening. The point is the mindfulness, is the paying attention, and not letting your attention be yanked away by the energetics of emotions and feelings. Just stick with it. Just stick with the moment to moment watching. And don't go into the story making and the story propagation. There's too much lure there, too much creativity is tied up in there. Just sit. Move your hand and sit. And as judgment
Don't kill
arise, as
yourself.
pain
Use of
arises,
your
as
body for
joy
digital art.
arises,
Give
merely
unholy.
watch.
Give holy
Yes,
onto your art.
even joy must be observed in this condition. And yes, even joy can be unraveled through the watching. Now, some people would say that that's rather dark and not good. Well, this might be some next step stuff, but once you get a little bit of
God,
practice
it's
with
raining
it,
so hard here.
and you have had some
Another
experience
thunderstorm.
with it,
Like
I think
black
most people
outside, even
find
though
that
it's
if
like
you
7:30.
unravel a lot of stuff, the substrate on which all of those things that are being unraveled sit upon is joy. It's okay to unravel an energetic spike of joy because underneath all of the movement, the sea is joy itself. Peace feels a lot like joy. Equanimity, by chance, seems to have a delicious, positive flavor. Who knows why? Didn't have to be that way. Sure seems that way, though. I want you to get there. I can think of few things in this world more senseless than weighing down the free, beautiful, ecstatic experience of creativity with humdrum
Saint, have you
Monday
ever felt
morning
the
feelings.
ecstatic beauty of
I just don't
creativity?
see why. And I'm saying that on a Monday morning. I think you should make it part of your mission as an artist.
Have you ever
Part
felt
of your
the
artist
ecstasy of
statement
creation?
or whatever to feel good while you do this thing, damn it. Make it so that even if you did a great piece, if you hated doing it, something didn't go right. And make it so that even if you made a terrible piece, if you had a beautiful 8 hours doing it, you couldn't ask for anything else. Insist on joy. It's necessary. You're going to give up if you don't have it. Now let's get into some hard practicality. If this thing sucks, If it hurts the whole time that you're doing it, it is likely that you will give up. The practice will be unsustainable. You'll be distracted during all of your studies, so you will learn at not a fraction of the
Like
rate
Destiny.
you would if you were glad, if you were
Oh
having
my
fun, if you
god.
were happy. Right? When you are peaceful and joyful, you are easily focused. You easily concentrate. You sink right into everything that you are doing, and you connect with the things that you are trying to learn as if they were friends, as if they were not challenges that you were grappling with, not obstacles that need to be overcome, not this disgusting Reddit motivation flavor of everything. You will engage with the things that you are trying to learn the same way that you engage with your friends. You just talk to them for the fun of it. You chose them as your friends because their particular way of being is evocative to you, and it's just nice to talk to them and to hang out with them. That is what the things that you are going to be learning will feel like. It will feel that way to interface with anatomy and figure drawing and shading and design. I studied
You have a
anatomy
mini
objectively
role-playing
for
game?
years.
What's a
I read
miniature
books that are
role-playing game?
supposed to be anatomy
Is
textbooks.
that
That is to say, you're not
like
supposed
a
to
one
read them
shot?
from beginning to end. You're supposed to
Like
use them as a
Critical
reference
Role?
when a particular problem arises. I read them like they were novels, cover to cover, linear, beginning to end. I spent a lot of my time learning anatomy from
I actually heard
one
like
of the
Destiny
best
2,
anatomy teachers who is notorious for
it's
being
getting
a
better
hard
or
ass
something,
and brutal and
which
mean
doesn't
and a
make any
very
sense
hard
because they
grader,
fired everyone.
and never once, even for a second,
I
ever,
don't
when I was
believe it.
studying
It sounds like
anatomy,
propaganda
did
to
I
me.
feel like I was overcoming an obstacle,
It sounds
or
like
like I was
filthy
great,
Vex
or like
propaganda
I
trying to
was
bring me back into the game.
exerting all of this effort to do this hard thing, and oh, what a challenge. Never. It was fun. And I was doing it not because I wanted to overcome a challenge, but because it was so fun to learn it and to watch the knowledge show up in the drawings. It was like, it was always the same feeling as when your best friend calls you and says, dude, we gotta hang out. Dude, I gotta tell you something. It's not for the phone, man. No, I gotta tell you this in person.
I'm hungry.
You are gonna shit when you hear this. You are not gonna believe this. That same feeling. That feeling when you have that conversation and you're like, oh my God, okay, when? Where are we gonna meet? Let's just hear, oh, you really can't just tell me now? You really can't just tell me on the phone right now? That feeling with every one of those boring anatomy books, with every lesson, with every conversation, with every homework graded, it felt like that. It felt like the fun, electric, exciting, like letting you in on the secret, just friendly blast of exploration and discovery and creativity. I'm not kidding. And I am
Nah, I
just
think I'm
as
done with
susceptible to negative
Destiny.
emotions
Like
as
I've been
anybody
away from
else.
the game for
All
so
right,
long.
I am not. If
Like
you
it
guys
doesn't.
knew me in person, you would think that I'm not.
I
You
missed
would
out on like
think
all
I
of
am not Mr.
the
Optimism.
seasonal
All right, I'm not
MTX.
Mr.
So
Encouraging.
like, why
All
should
right,
I play
if you
anymore?
knew me in person, you'd
I
see that I
can't
spend
get
most
the
of my time
MTX
over
anymore.
dinner
There's
complaining and
no
being
point.
negative and cynical, highly cynical and jaded.
I've missed out.
But when it comes to the
I've
art stuff,
fallen to the
I just see
FOMO.
no reason for it. It doesn't make any sense.
And
It
there's
doesn't
just
add
no
up.
point for me to
That
come
stuff
back.
does not belong there. For the industry part, sure. For the interactions between artists, sure. For the way social media works, sure. But for the drawing itself, where would it land? Where would that go? It doesn't make any sense. Of course,
They're making a
the
third
act
Destiny.
of doing it itself and expanding upon it and learning it and devouring things that then get regurgitated into the art.
Nah.
Of
After
course,
like the
that's raw
sun setting
fun.
and all that shit,
It's everything else
I'm
that
just
fucks
like
it
so
up.
done with Destiny.
Stop thinking that everything else is what
Yeah.
the art is. The art
I
isn't
do
like
not
anything
like
else.
game
Art
developers
is
taking away
mystery,
content.
pure, unadulterated mystery. It should be
It's a huge
impossible.
no-no for me.
There is no understandable reason why a cosmos of mostly empty space with atoms bumping into each other and large solar style explosions that just rip heat through the universe 1 trillion years at a time would result in conscious beings that can make and enjoy art. That is a mystery, right? Shut up with your answer I don't care about your answer. I don't care. Oh, well, there is
Yeah,
no
Saint,
meaning.
shut up with
Oh,
your
there is
answer.
God. Shut up. I don't care about the answer. That's not what we're talking about right now. It's mysterious. Nobody knows. And everybody who tells you they know is trying to poison your mind and affect the art. Nobody knows. And art is an avenue for you to investigate that it is mysterious. And then as you burrow down on it, guess what? You get to find your own utterly personal
Guess
answer.
what, Saint? Monkey butt.
It's not like other
Ah!
things. It is not like social media. It is not like the industry. It is not like the opinions of your parents. It has nothing to do with any of that. So, of course,
Answer's the
it's
final
perfect
shape.
and unblemished.
What's my level
Now, if
for?
there is a blemish on it, you put it there.
Thievery 9. Only 9? Lockpicking.
Sorry.
Oh, it's little lockpicking. Never mind. Okay.
So, draw. Draw. Just draw.
Is there like anything
And let
good
it flow.
here that just
And if
died?
it doesn't feel good right now, progress can be made. I can promise you that. Progress can be made. If it doesn't feel good right now, that's fine. Just pick up the pencil again tomorrow and pick it up again the day after that and the day after that and the year after that. And little by little, if you just pay attention, if you just watch what comes up and what doesn't come up while you sit there and do it, things will
Do you have
ever
the
so
Vex
slowly,
Mytho
bit
class
by
yet,
bit,
Saint?
morph and transform.
I think my
You spend years observing,
my guardian has the Vex Mytho
noticing,
class, like
really
full
being
end game
aware, right? Not letting
gear.
things drift by, but being aware over years that nothing bad is
I
happening
even
to
have
you while you
the
draw,
silver skin for the Vex
and
Mytho
that no one
class.
is attacking you while you draw,
My
and that the
EP is just
stories
massive.
and pains that you tell yourself while you draw are merely that, stories in a hazy, dark place that is called your internal monologue that no one can describe. You will eventually, just from sheer experience, stop worrying about that so much. You will have observed over and over again, directly, so many times ad nauseum, that you are fine, deeply fine, while you make your artwork. And over time, you will convince yourself. That will change your beliefs. But only if you notice. Only if you open your heart enough to let yourself acknowledge that you are fine while you are doing it. And that any moment where you don't feel fine has nothing to do with the drawing. Any moment where you don't feel fine is about whatever particular random thought is in your head in that moment. And that's it. That's the end of the story, right? We can dance around it and embroider it, and we can try to find ways to help you with the thoughts, but that all of that is possible, and that's very specific to the individual. But in a general sense, there is nothing but the truth that while you are drawing, you are perfectly, beautifully free, and any moment where you don't feel that way is because you are focusing
God,
on
I'm
a
so
thought
beautiful.
in your head instead of what's on the paper. Nothing else could be the case. So stop getting distracted. Give yourself a break to not worry. You've got all day for that. And while you're drawing, just draw. And notice. Pay careful attention. And let whatever comes, come. All right. Thank you for drawing today.
Where's face cam? Don't need no stinking face cam. Bungie have threaded the
Welcome back. I'm
needle?
glad you've tuned in. Today it's going to be a fun one because the Destiny 2 community has got a pretty serious case of whiplash going on right now. I'll start us off
You
with
guys got
a quote.
whiplash?
Facing the Witness is not the end of Destiny 2, and it's definitely not the end of Destiny. Those are the words of the executive creative director Luke Smith, as Bungie has actually managed to, and I know it's weird to say, but they kind of stunned their fans and critics, like seriously, and given how rough the headlines were going into this, I think that is a testament to how much people, in principle, like what they've shown off. So what's happened is there have been reveals for the final shape, there's entirely new gameplay, reward loops, and enemies that are kind of headlining this as major features. I mean, come on, a new enemy faction properly being in Destiny 2 that's not really an asset reuse thing, like that's actually pretty damn great. This is very much being framed
Just
as their
one
most
new
important
enemy
expansion
faction?
ever, certainly their most do or die expansion.
Why
And,
not 2?
if leaks are to be believed, there's even a little bit of Destiny 3 to be talking about, but get through the details. On the 4th of June 2024, Destiny 2, the
I
final
bet
shape
Destiny
will
3 is going to be
launch.
better than
It
Overwatch
was
2.
delayed though, right? It was delayed from February. And very much when that happened, I think we all assumed that it was really behind schedule, that they probably needed a delay, or else it would have been a shit show. Basically, we all, I think, assumed it was a defensive play, right? Trying to avert a disaster rather than trying to do something a little bit, you know, above and beyond. One person working in that team actually reached out to a journalist and said, hey, what if we use those few months to actually cook? And we'll get to that a little bit later. Now, what this is all culminated in, though, this kind of campaign they've been drumming up for the final shape, is their third developer showcase stream that served essentially as the pre-launch of their new in-game season, Into the Light. Into the Light is not really a full fat
Into the
season.
unknown.
It's, I suppose you could say, like a little bit.
That's what I
more,
always think of whenever I hear
budget
Into the
and,
Light.
and
I hear
fun.
I
know
hear
it
that
sounds really
Disney
weird,
song.
but basically, they knew there was a delay, and they put something in the game to tide people over. The main thing that has been is a new game mode, Onslaught, that actually looks pretty damn fun. More noteworthy, though, is the final shape. And just to give you an example of the core Destiny community opinions there, take Aztec Ross, right? I mean, it is very
Is it Aztec
possible.
Ross or is it
The description of it, though, I think, is what I want to read. Today,
Aztec
we got
Cross?
a look at Destiny 2's final chapter, and
Kinda
it
like-
was definitely more than any of us
like
could have
dirt
asked
biking.
for or
I don't know.
expected. That's a pretty big statement. And again, remember the context here.
Kinda like
In
motocross.
previous Destiny coverage, right? The GDC talk had been talked about a hell of a lot, and that GDC talk, it was saying, don't over deliver. You know, don't set a precedent that you don't think you can actually match going on. And amid the game having issues at that time, we all sort of thought, this feels like the minimum they can get away with. Something like that, what I just read about this being more than anyone could have asked for or expected, that is, I think, actually a meaningful statement coming specifically
I can't wait
from
to
the
kill the
Destiny
new
community.
faction.
To go
Get
over to another
get
person
50
who
shotgun
actually
kills
later in today's, show confirmed some
on
leaks
on
from
the new
podcast to
enemy
say, back when
faction
I was negative
with
about, the first final
with
shape
the
reveal, someone at
shotguns.
Bungie told me, quote, what else do you think we might now have time to add with this kind of delay? And he goes on
Don't
to
you
say,
love
"And
bounties?
so here we
Bounties are
are,
so
legit
great.
through
You just
a
keep doing
delay." That's
bounties
fairly interesting. The
over
idea
and
that
over
someone
and
reached out
over and
said,
over
"With
again.
this additional time, we've been able to cook a little bit more, been able to make some new features." And I think Paul did a pretty good job of characterizing
Doesn't matter
the
if you like
community
playing with
sentiment in the lead up
bows
to this. So
or
Bungie hyped
or
it
assault
quite a
rifles. You just
lot,
gotta
and
pick up the
as Paul puts it,
shotgun
people had
and,
this
and
very
do the
much, you
do
know,
the
fool me
bounty.
once mentality going into
It's
it.
good for
And
you.
look, I feel you. You know, I've been doing Warcraft stuff for a decade. I know what it is like to be disappointed continually, to feel like a studio is not listening, and to have that deep skepticism about anything, right? That even if there is a good thing, that somehow the monkey's paw will curl. Paul goes on to say that now, after the debut,
Monkey paws
there is
always
just that
curl.
feeling that they've blown past people's
It always
expectations.
it
and he
always
speaks of
curls.
huge series-changing developments. And the reason why I would sort
That's
of
the
default
cross.
go to Paul on this is because he does actually know people at Bungie. He can get pretty good, pretty good leaks, but also just confirmations and denials of things, and that will be relevant later in this video. So, yes, after months of bullshit, after the worry that, as an example, PlayStation management had pretty much put blame directly at Bungie's
I wonder what happened to
leadership, and
M-Tashed.
a lot of staff thinking, oh, hang on a second, you guys could
Is
all
he
leave
still
in
doing like the whole
2026 and
anime
final
thing?
vesting from the Sony acquisition happens. Do you really have our best interests at heart as employees who you would think want to be there for a long time? That's the kind of news story that's been going on. So, that there's been a positive reaction at all, I think, is pretty meaningful, and this tweet encapsulates it perfectly, and it's one that very much I just empathize with. If you're like, why are Destiny players so insane? I understand where you're coming from, but you have to understand we're rubber banding between we're so back and it's so over so fucking fast we can't see straight. Yes, as somebody who's been in the Warcraft trenches,
It sounds
I
like an
feel
abusive
that profoundly.
relationship,
Let's actually get
almost.
into some of the new things, and really the main thing is prismatic stuff. which
You
basically
gotta
sets
stop
into a
playing
few new
Destiny,
features. So technically, there's
Saint.
about 4 additions
You're in
to the
an
final shape
abusive
that they talked
relationship
about. To say that though is almost downplaying
with
it because these
Bungie.
are going
You're
to be
getting
rather huge.
bungeed.
The first thing is an entirely new subclass called the Prismatic, right? Now, the Prismatic basically lets you mix and match Arc, Solar, Void, Stasis, and Strand powers together, with that depending on the overarching class, obviously, of your Hunter, Titan, and Warlock. So, that is already pretty new and different, allowing you to mix and match things. It also comes with its own Transcendent state. Basically, you
When
pop
are they
an
adding
avatar
Demon
form and
Hunters
become
as a
very
class
powerful.
to
You also, by the way,
Destiny
do
2?
get a new grenade.
Are we getting
right, that is
Demon
another
Hunters
sort of
yet?
unique prismatic one for your overall class. That Transcendence form also comes with further damage boosts. This, you may think, is not necessarily a big deal.
I'm not
because
playing
it's
Destiny 2
blending
until
things
we
that
get
already
Worgen
exist, and
Demon
you think, no, I
Hunters.
want something new. I get that, and what
Just
is
because
new
nothing
is
else
your
can
ability
match
to
my
actually
edge.
play with these toys, because effectively this unlocks a whole new combination of tools that people are already familiar with. And I think that's actually quite key to the player response here. People are already familiar with how Destiny plays, so now they understand how they can mix and match things that they know in depth. And that means that it feels tangibly exciting. So I think that's why that's going down particularly well with people.
Tangibly
Beyond that,
exciting.
then, we should talk about aspects and fragments. These are the customization perks of Destiny 2's subclasses. Prismatics do, of course, then get their own sets of those, as you'd expect, but because the Prismatic class is about remixing the abilities from the other subclasses, that means that the relevant aspects and fragments are unlocked a bit differently in that they're account-wide, which is brilliant. So these new aspects and fragments, you unlock them once,
You have to
and
unlock
they will
stuff.
be playable on any of your other characters, as you know, assuming that of course they pertain to that character, which is good.
It isn't just given to you. You gotta unlock things.
And basically, your progression on your main has increased what you can do on your alts, which then makes
Sounds
that a
like-
more enticing prospect. That's exactly what I think works in today's market.
Sounds like
and
work to me.
ultimately, this means way more flexibility, way more build craft potential across the board, which I think is very positive. And Bungie are then promising that they're just going to straight up be more perks given out in total. So you will be getting basically more and more things. You have more flexibility to play with those things, and they overtly basically want you to make
Destiny
your own
dies, I
shit that's
die.
fun. Now there is a third part. of
It's
this, and
already
that is
dead,
exotic.
Saint.
So the current range of
It's
exotic
a
class items is,
zombie of
course,
its former
designed,
self.
in a way that benefits from
It's gone the same way as
subclasses
World of
with their
Warcraft.
defined design and their elemental abilities. The prismatic ones, though, are going to be a bit different, and this really is a new form of gear. So Bungie are introducing new exotics that will pretty much just change how you gear up your character, change how you play your class. They basically steal from a pool of random exotic effects
Oh, am I
from
done?
other bits of gear, sort of
Wait, what?
inspired by other bits
Why
of
am I
gear,
not
and it
training
then
anymore?
combines them together,
Let's go train with the
and,
number
well,
2.
you get a new thing, and that can allow for entirely different effects, new builds, that sort of thing, and you can roll them over and over again to just make more gear and see what fun shit you can do with the system.
Wow, you can make
And that,
more
of course, is
gear,
tapping into
Saint.
a lot of things that are very successful in the ARPG genre, like whether you're talking about Diablo 4,
That's so
which is
cool.
trying
You
really
can like
hard
role
with its
play
first
a
season,
blacksmith.
to just rework so many aspects of itself with your last epochs and so on. So ultimately what this means is playing your class should really feel entirely different. Your possibility space will be a hell of a lot larger, and I think that's just kind of important, because whenever you get incremental updates or just a tiny thing bolted on top, and it's not really that much, like, it's a cool thing, sure, you might enjoy it when it comes out, but the idea...
When are they adding
like
like romance to Destiny 2? Like when do you get to like
players. So This
romance
is
the
smart. You know what it's
NPCs.
probably not going to be though? Balanced. Now that does lead to lots of sweaty metagame problems. I have a feeling though that they're happy to just go fun and OP first. The developers on
Like if
stream
there's
actually
no
did
like
say that this
Baldur's
exotic
Gate
gear could end up
role
being
playing
quite a
in
little
Destiny 2,
game-breaking.
I'm not coming
So,
back.
I'm sure they will have to hotfix things that are like literally too broken or actually present like a legitimate social problem. But other than that, it seems like they're happy to just let people have fun with this system. That is great, and with a game like Destiny that so many
That's the
people
problem with
went through,
Destiny
I
2.
think
There's
being
no
able to see your
waifus in
friends
Destiny 2.
sharing videos, Discord streams, seeing GIFs, things that you recognize being used
All there is
in
is
a
pew
way
pew,
that
sweaty
feels
pew
new and
pew.
different. I think that's
You
actually
go, you
really
load
exciting
into
for
a PvP
reactivating
lobby
that
and you
player
like
base.
die in 1
And
second.
given the
Either that or
rise
you like
of
stomp
Lightfall, given
stomp
Bungie being
faces.
45% under the revenue target for Lightfall a while ago, I feel like
You either
that
instantly
vast
die or the other
Destiny
team
community
instantly
is
dies.
really large. I mean, at least
It's the
it does
matchmaking.
include me,
I
and
don't think
hopefully
they've
looking at
improved the
this, I'm
matchmaking, have
personally
they?
quite excited. Now that being said, all of these cool new tools would be pointless if there was nothing new to do with them. Hello there, Suicide Squad, and your interesting first season. Fortunately, what they've done though is add a whole new enemy
Man, these
section.
YouTubers
This
really love
was
shitting
one
on
of my
Suicide
major
Squad.
disappointments with the launch of Destiny 2. I didn't want a faction that I knew
Like,
would be
all
rewatched.
of
Like, I
all
wanted
of the like
something that actually
the
felt new.
journalists
This,
kind of
however, is building on
YouTubers,
two
they're all like,
existing
yeah,
enemy
Suicide
types by
Squad.
basically
Let's
adding more enemy
beat,
types to that
let's
faction,
kick the
to point
shit
where
out
they
of
are
Suicide
kind of a full
Squad.
new faction. So it's not like the full addition of a faction because they've already existed. I can at least say as a lapsed player, I've never played with any of these enemies. So not
Does anyone
only
even
do we
play
get
like the
like
Marvel
new
games,
abilities,
like the
to
Spider-Man
combination
games and
of
stuff?
things, but we're also using
I
them
just
again
don't see
in
how
a
that's fun.
different
You just
design.
play as
Of
someone
course,
else. You
being
don't get to
a
play your own
long-time-
character.
I wouldn't say fan anymore. I was certainly a fan of Bungie's output during the Halo days, and one of the great things about old school
There's
Halo was
there's
the combat
no
sandbox, right? And even though I had
self-inserting
a lot of
in these
criticisms of
games.
Destiny 1 when I was
You
playing,
might as well
that
just go
right
watch
at
a
its
Spider-Man
launch,
movie.
I did like these enemies. They feel good. Every one of them feels just a bit different to fight. So more on that sandbox is brilliant. Get into the new enemies though. So Subjugators and Tormentors are already in the game, and now they are being joined by their fellow lads to basically form the Dread as a full new enemy faction. So we've got the Grim, the Husk, the Attendant, and Weavers. So the Attendant and Weavers basically use Stasis and Strand to control you. Right, whether that means, you know, CCing you, moving you across the battlefield, that kind of thing. You know what? That could
No
be cool,
classes
but man,
in
whenever you're
Destiny
dealing with
3.
loss of control for the
Oh, are
player,
they
that
going
is
like a
a
Morrowind
tricksy
route?
design space. There's
Like,
then the Husk, which
oh,
basically
good
is a
to-
melee bruiser, and
I have
Grim, which
45
seemingly
points
fly about
in
the place and scream
beer.
at you to suppress your abilities. So it will be cool to see like how these actually shape up in combat. I think what's just exciting though is finally something new that is not just an enemy you've already seen but with a different color and slightly different abilities. That I think is really good, and that actually makes this feel like well, like Destiny's being moving forward, which I think is one of the things that a lot of these
Destiny
games
moving
can
forward.
suffer. It's just infinite live service, and we're kind of getting lots of rehashings of things that we've
Dude,
seen, but
that's so
not
sad.
a lot like new. So I think this
Moving
is the type
forward.
of new that can actually serve
Is
and
it?
grow the franchise. All that being said, the campaign, narrative developments, post-launch content, like that stuff we don't know about. At least with the campaign, we know they can do really good work. Just look at Witch Queen. Obviously, Lightfall happened, and its campaign, well, its campaign is not the worst in terms of its core gameplay. It's just more the narrative is so weird and miscalibrated and not what anybody wanted following Witch Queen. I mean, it's called Lightfall, and then it ended up being more like an 80s action movie. Like, oh, I don't know. That's bizarre. I have to imagine, though, that they will be returning to form. The last time that they were just really, you know, doing proper good serious shit in Witch Queen, that did work out well. It shows they have the chops. And if they do have those chops, surely the end of their big, you know, 10-year arc, but surely that's when they're going to cook pretty hard. Obviously, while all this sounds good, I still say, do not pre-order. Wait. Yes, wait until launch day to see how this actually is. To continue though, it's probably this lack of knowing about
Saying,
like,
did you pre-order?
campaign
You better
details,
not have
etc.,
pre-ordered,
that
Saint.
led to Luke Smith being pretty clear.
If you pre-order,
with the
you
viewers
are-
when he said, facing the witness is not
You're
the end of Destiny
damaging
2. It's
not
definitely
only
the end of Destiny. After you
yourself,
face the witness,
but
we
you're
are going to tell
damaging
you what's
the
next in
entire
Destiny 2.
gamer
And
ecosystem.
this actually does remind me of
You're
a
hurting all
very
of us by
successful,
pre-ordering.
I wouldn't say marketing, but more public positioning and sort of confidence building strategy that Blizzard did with World of Warcraft. I know you might think Blizzard, World of Warcraft, confidence. Michael, you've absolutely lost your mind. Yes, I have, but that's besides the point. I say this because, obviously, we had Battle for Azeroth, which I suppose you could say was a bit like you guys having Lightfall. But after that, we had Shadowlands.
Not yet.
That would be a bit like...
Don't you
if
mean
the
not
Final
never?
Shape was also a Lightfall. Maybe worse. Shadowlands was really shit. Warcraft was at an all-time low. Then Dragonflight happens. And Dragonflight, like, by the technicals of its game design and its systems, infinitely better. Like, I think a really great expansion, but so goddamn unexciting, you know? It just did not have the narrative teeth that people wanted. Again, I think of Lightfall. So what Blizzard did at BlizzCon is they, in a way, pulled a bit of a Marvel. So I'm sure you've seen across social media, you know, some Marvel person come up with a suit and they'll just have a bunch of movie logos behind them for years and years and years. Now, obviously, that's the kind of thing I normally roll my eyes at. With Warcraft,
I think
though,
people
they
still
do
talk about
something that
Blizzard,
I think Bungie are seeking to replicate here. And it is to say, yes,
I guess it makes
there's
some
this
money
next
by
thing coming
talking
up,
about Blizzard.
but we have a direction, one we're willing to talk about publicly and commit to. Obviously, Bungie have actually done that before in how they talk about expansion, so again, I wouldn't be surprised if they do it here. So imagine you have the final shape, people play the campaign, hopefully enjoy the campaign, defeat the Witness, and shortly after that, Bungie says, okay, hope you enjoyed that. Here is our big presentation of what's next. Because ultimately a risk factor that Bungie has here is you can only escalate and escalate and escalate within your current plot arc. You know, you can only do that so much, right? I mean, look at, say, Marvel struggling to find audiences as much in the sort of post-Infinity War, or Endgame even, era. I know a lot of people have just kind of decided, you know what, that was a good run. I'm done now. I'm done. I feel like I can check out. That's happened with quite a lot of different franchises. Even take Final Fantasy XIV. They did Endwalker, and then they did struggle to engage people a bit with the story that followed Endwalker through the patches. So, if Bungie can say, Witness is dead, here's what's next, it's a big, cool presentation, and hopefully what, you know...
Have you
comes there
played
with
Final
that
Fantasy, like
Witness,
the MMO
content, you know,
thing?
hopefully that's actually exciting and enticing. It would be a great shame if the Witness pulled a...
I thought
"Ah,
about
you do
playing
not
it. I
understand, you
I
cannot
actually did
survive.
play it for like a
What is
few
to
minutes,
come?"
but
And then he dies.
I realized like how
Sorry.
dated
I
it
still do
was.
try to
I
work out
didn't
the
realize
Shadowlands
like the
drama
graphics
when
were
I
so
can,
bad.
because at least you guys get to
Like
laugh
I thought
and
Final
struggle.
Fantasy had
Anyway,
good
we'll keep on
graphics, but the
going,
MMO
and
is just
after
oh my
this
god.
live stream, Into the Light, of course, dropped. That brought with it just some
And there's,
stuff
like,
about
no-
weapons, also Onslaught, which is their horde mode. Again,
There's
you know,
no
big
way to
Bungie,
actually change the FOV
Firefight,
without
Halo,
installing
Probably
mods.
about time they did a horde mode thing. And generally
So
speaking,
you're like locked
it's
to
a very
45
mixed picture across the
degrees
board. There are
FOV when you
quibbles
log
about
in. I'm like,
balance,
what
about
is this
sustainability,
shit?
Stuff like that, yes. And a lot of those longer term concerns that people have had based on a lot of the reporting, those still do exist. But at least
I
they've
can't
been
have
kind of put in the back burner
103
in service of
degrees
what
FOV,
appears to
then
be
I'm
tangible
out.
in the here and now. To do some top posts from the Reddit,
It needs to look like
watching this
Quake.
felt like a bad fake leak slash paste bin of the many we've seen over the years.
The
From
porn
different
deceives you.
subclasses, I feel
No,
like
like
I'm
it
tweaking.
was back
Thank
when
you, Bungie.
Asmongold was
That is
playing the
kind
game.
of
I was like,
response
oh,
that you
okay.
want from jaded players.
I mean, if
Somebody
Asmongold's
quoted,
playing it,
New Witness faction
maybe
that
I
tried
should
saying,
play it
"Holy shit,
too."
they finally did
You
it, a
see?
brand new
That's
faction
just
that
how
isn't a spin-off."
influencers work.
As somebody who played a bit of Destiny 1 and then kind of bounced off it, and played a lot of Destiny 2 at the start and a lot of Destiny 2 after Forsaken and into Season of the Drifter, the idea of a new faction, that is actually something that piques my interest. As a player who is not super engaged with the current lore, who doesn't really have a lot of detail
I think
about
the
the
new
game,
faction,
but vaguely knows what Destiny
what are those
is,
big
because again,
dudes that
having
get
been
called
playing
again? The
properly since
Cabal.
Season of
They're
the
gonna
Drifter
be
on
like
that
a,
stuff, Shadowkeep,
they're
yes,
gonna be
Shadowkeep is the name
Cabal,
of the
but they're
title.
gonna
So,
be,
my point there, if you're
what
trying to
color
target
hasn't
a
been
player
changed,
like me,
chosen
they've
yet.
quite
So
successfully done
there's like,
so.
there's
And
already
then
purple
if
Cabal,
the
there's red
details of
Cabal, and
mechanical
there's like
changes
the,
are enticing current
there's like the
players,
brown
that is
Cabal,
definitely pointing
which
to a
belong to
pretty
that
damn
princess
strong
girl.
picture. To me, really, this
Well,
clash of humongous
there's
drama
gonna be
and
the green
dissatisfaction
Cabal.
rolling into this event, that combined with
That's gonna be the
genuine
new
excitement
faction.
over what game developers have made, just reinforces one of the core points I think that I like to put into this channel, which is that for every Ghostbusters cosmetic pack or egregious monetization decision like that stupid noob trap starter pack that they tried to sell with Destiny, all of that bullshit, all of the annoying monetization stuff, all of the stuff forced in by the suits, and yes, of course, boneheaded design decisions as well.
Why does my
Even
dude
all of
just
that,
like
there
stop
still are
training
people,
after
number
a
one,
while?
make a mistake, but genuinely are trying, and you know, will course correct and do a better job. Point is, there's developers who are absolutely there trying to make the best content they can, because they also love Destiny. Maybe they work at Bungie because they played Halo when they were 14 and loved it and decided that's the career path they wanted. And I just bring that up to say that whenever we are going hard at companies for, like, decisions that publishers have made, some
I need
big
a
team leadership
backpack.
decisions, yes, or maybe even little sort of bits of design. But the core point is that in most cases, there's just developers everywhere trying to do their best shit, trying to wade through all of the news that we talk about, just that, of course, we do that through the context of being customers. They wade through the same shit just through the context of trying to do their job and be developers. In this case, though, obviously, do not pre-order based on anything that I have said, obviously, because the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and it's not out yet. Now, this is where things do get a little bit more interesting. So, Luke Smith said that this isn't the end of Destiny, and that leads me to Destiny 3. Here's basically the point. About a month ago, a leaker described the prismatic stuff pretty accurately, and they also said Destiny 3 is, and they do sort of caution that by saying was, they're not sure if it's still a thing, but Destiny 3 is in development under codename Payback. One of the big changes for Destiny 3 is for classes to
I
no
thought they were
longer
working on like
exist and allow
Marathon.
any
What happened to
character
that?
spec into any ability, since lore-wise there's no reason why you couldn't. As an example, they point out that hunters explicitly learned Blink from warlocks, and Blink is not tied to a single element, so the logic fits. That's one thing, but there's another bit here as well. This eventually would be corroborated by Paul Tassi. I'll go to his tweet. He says, an update on this.
I get a
D3
feeling that
Leaker
Destiny 3 is
posted
going to
new
get
comment
cancelled.
after the reveal about Payback.
I don't think
Separate
it's
from
actually
that,
going
they
to
posted
happen.
about how trans devs were pushing for character re-editing to be a free feature in Destiny for years. I can directly confirm that, so I'm inclined to believe the rest. So the OP said this stuff about being able to, like, re-edit your character for free. He has independently heard the same thing, and that's making Paul think, okay, well, whoever this leaker is, they are clearly close enough to Destiny development to actually know something about it. Of course, though, standard caveat with leaks. The things in that leak are what that person thought to be the case at the time that they heard.
I really don't
from
think Destiny
their
3 is going to
source.
happen.
Things can change. I suppose the
Like,
idea
why?
of a
Why would you make a
classless
Destiny 3?
That's certainly interesting.
Like,
and
Destiny
that kind of
2's
thing,
graphics
for
are
me,
still
worked
up
out
to
really
par.
well in Final Fantasy 14. Don't know, maybe it'll happen here. It's not really a surprise
Just
though.
keep
that Destiny
releasing
3 is going
DLC
to
for
be a
Destiny
thing,
2.
right? But you may wonder, well, why bother? Why just not make more?
Like, that's what
Destiny 2? To
Warframe
be
did,
honest
and
there,
it's
I
working
just
out well for them.
imagine they'd probably have engine updates that they would want to make. They probably as well would be thinking about user-generated content. And I know it is totally the buzz nowadays to talk about Fortnite, where you can go to, other islands and custom games, and people can actually make money off that. The same in Roblox, which we'll be covering. That's the sort of the talk of the town. For a lot of people, though, that genuinely is where they think that, like, a lot of the future of just of game stuff can go. So if you're Bungie, well, you've already got experience with the Forge in Halo, Halo 3, Reach. Those were big for user-generated content. If you were able to get something like that existing within the framework of Destiny, and that was happening in a new version of Destiny, new just engine changes, I don't know, that could be interesting. But again, we have also heard, and this may be out of date, but that their tool set is a little bit of a nightmare to work with. Again, though, that is old information, and I don't think we've had the most fresh and crispy leaks on that. Anyway, I don't think any of that's going to be anytime soon. I mean, Bungie have...
Like, if your tool set is a nightmare to
Marathon,
work
and
with,
that,
just
I think, just means
improve
that
the
there
tool
will be
set.
another
That's
arc
what
in
Maddox
Destiny
does.
2, and I think Destiny 3 would happen after that arc. Now, of course, going to a lot of that prior reporting, the leaks from staff saying they're worried about the long-term future, this is talking about the future to the point where it's almost not
Like,
even
hire some
relevant
more
because
engineers that can
just,
actually
I don't know, the
improve
precision of anything that anybody could say
the
is
content
just, like,
creation
so up in the air,
pipeline.
because anything could change. Ultimately, though, what this shows is a player base being happy, right? A player base being happy, which is good.
Are you happy,
People
Saint?
are happy, like, obviously.
Are you
but,
happy?
just especially in contrast to the experience that player base has had. I think this is really good. I'm personally excited for it, and
Are you a
know
happy
what? This
Destiny
has
player, Saint?
successfully piqued my interest. I'm not pre-ordering. You shouldn't pre-order, but it is in my consideration for the future. So yeah, nice we can end today on a happy note. That's it from me. Of course, I'll see you right back here tomorrow.
Well, if you're happy, I'm happy for you.
Iran's attack on Israel has raised questions over its military capabilities and its potential readiness for an escalated conflict in the region. The country, which has been under international sanctions for years, has been suffering from high inflation and low growth. But over the past few months, it's also been showing increasing readiness to flex its military muscles, carrying out attacks on tankers near the Strait of Hormuz and reinforcing its support for a range of militant groups, including Hamas and Hezbollah. To talk more about this, I'm joined now by Javaid Salehi Isfahani, Professor of Economics at Virginia Tech and an expert in Middle East economics. Javad, perhaps we could begin by looking at the economic backdrop to this latest escalation. What state is the Iranian economy in right now, and how ready is it for a potential military escalation with Israel?
Well, generally, it's not ready for an extended military conflict, which is why they have been very careful to not get too involved in the Gaza war. The attack they had on Israel sounded more symbolic and one intended to do harm. Inflation is very high and is very sensitive to tensions in the region. So just for the last 2-3 weeks, when people have been expecting tensions to rise, the dollar has appreciated in value by about 15%. It's 25% up from a few months ago. And these inflationary, the exchange rate devaluation very quickly translates into higher prices because Iran imports a lot of types of commodities, and many of the commodities it produces inside Iran also have an import component. So I think the country is bracing for higher inflation at this moment. Last year, which ended on 21st of March, registered inflation of 40%, and it has been higher than that before. And my expectation is that this new round of tensions and the devaluation is going to at least keep the inflation that high, if not raise it some more. Iran is not self-sufficient in food. So any shock to world prices or any shock to the ability to import food is going to raise food prices, which is going to have a big impact on the welfare of the poor, because food occupies some half of their expenditures.
Right. I want to learn a little bit more about how Iran's economy works. It is largely controlled by the Islamic Revolutionary Guards. They manage everything from oil and banking to healthcare even. What is the impact of essentially having the armed forces in charge of the economy?
Well, I wouldn't say the armed forces are in charge of the economy. I think people exaggerate sometimes the influence of the guards. I don't think it's any more than in Egypt or Pakistan. When you have an authoritarian state, the armed forces can operate with more freedom. And on top of that, because of sanctions, the economic power has shifted from private sector, especially the smaller producers, to bigger producers, and from private sector to government entities like the IRGC, which has a big operation in terms of building of dams, roads, ports, and so on, and also because of sanctions in export of oil. Exporting oil and bringing the money back, given all the restrictions on transfer of money, is very difficult. So you can't expect private traders to do that, and it's the Revolutionary Guards that control that. But there is still a very sizable private sector. The agricultural sector is mostly private. Distribution, maybe 80% of the population or the working force is not working for the IRGC or for the government. So I think that's something that people don't quite realize, that as we speak now, Iran still is characterized as a market economy with a big influence from the state and the armed forces.
That's an interesting correction. All right. We know that in the past, Iran has been carrying out a lot of its military activities by proxy, as well as the Islamic Revolutionary Guards. It also supports a range of militants in Syria and Iraq, as well as Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthi rebels in Yemen, for example. Together, these groups form a powerful network of anti-US and anti-Israel militants. Jafad, what portion of Iranian state spending goes into this kind of financial backing, and what level of support for it is there among the Iranian people?
That's a very good question, but also very difficult to answer. These financial transfers are obviously by nature hidden. The government doesn't publish any numbers. We do know that of
What
the
happened to Discord?
50 to 70 billion
There you
dollars
go.
a year that Iran earns in terms of foreign exchange, a good deal of it goes to import of food and import of other commodities, necessary commodities, and maybe about 10 billion is exported through various means, which we put under capital flight. So it's very hard to put a number on what these proxy forces cost Iran. But again, I suspect that the media numbers exaggerate. Iran does whatever it does on the cheap. Working with
Is there anything I
Houthis
can
doesn't take a whole lot of
scavenge?
money.
I
Supplying
can go check the jail again, but I don't see
Hamas with
fights. Oh, something's happening over
military
here.
equipment or military know-how
Someone's getting
doesn't cost a whole
beaten
money.
up.
I
Let's
think
go check the
Hezbollah at
slave
one
markets
point
as well.
either
See if they
they
have anything in
declared
there.
or was in the news that they
Who's
get
this guy?
$100 million a year.
There's a
And if you
dude
think
here.
of 100 million compared to 50 to 70 billion, which is my estimate of what Iran's earnings are in foreign exchange, is not huge. There are other countries who spend a lot more in either foreign aid or foreign influence. I think a lot of Iran's
No
power, if you
slaves.
like, in projecting its power outside comes from an ideological source. The fact that it is, especially now, one of the very
Could
few
change the
countries that openly supports the Palestinian cause.
Sure, let's return then to the issue of oil. It is, of course, by far the country's most important source of revenue, a commodity that is very vulnerable to geopolitical tensions. If we look at the past few years, we did see a steep decline in exports after the US pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal and reimposed sanctions in 2018. But in recent years, we have seen an uptick again, and that's mainly due to an increase in purchases from
faction
China,
name.
which have enabled Iran to maintain a positive trade balance. I'm wondering if you could give some insight into this. Oil prices did initially rise after the Iranian attack on Israel, but they've since stabilized again amid a lot of talk of de-escalation.
Outlaw
To what
farmer.
extent is Iran
Ooh,
factoring in its heavy dependence on oil as it assesses its next
free
move?
leg.
I'm sure they are very worried
Nothing.
that if the war damages the
None of these guys have
infrastructure
anything.
to export oil, that would take that would
They have
hit
any
a hard blow
limbs.
to the economy. I must say that your chart was very, very good, very informative. Especially the fact that Iran has been able to recover like 80% of its oil exports, and
Nothing.
most people attributed that to a
We'll go to the
softening
prison, see
of
if
the
they have anything.
sanctions since Biden
Who's
has
this
been
guy?
in power.
Oh,
Iran's
he's
economy, in
turret
fact,
guarding
has been growing
down there.
partly as a result of this increase in oil exports. Not all of that increase in GDP, which is about 5% per year, which is not bad compared to what's happening in the region overall after COVID. Not all of that has translated into higher living standards by the population,
Oh my
because
God.
I think the government has been building up its military, has been
I feel like all of these
has
guys
a lot
I've
of
looted
expenditures.
already.
We do see in the GDP data a more vibrant economy than we see in household expenditures, for which we have data with a year of back. But if there is any decrease in oil prices or in oil exports, that will have an impact similar to the tensions that have raised the exchange rate, devalued the real Iranian currency. and it will again translate into inflation. Then, with some delay, it will affect people's living standards. We will see food prices rising, people buying less food. We looked very carefully into the household budgets in a book that we recently published on how sanctions work. And Iranian living standards are back to 20 years ago because of sanctions. Not the GDP. The GDP is about the same level or maybe a couple of percent higher than that. But I would say that the economy is very sensitive to any further declines. So I don't know what is going to be the balance between tensions or military
Let's see if
conflict
the skimmer has
reducing
any
the
meat
oil
on it.
output and raising the oil price. Clearly, there's a place where you lose 20% of your oil exports and prices go up by 20% and you come out even. But there's going to be a delay. Oil that Iran sells now is going to be delivered in 2 months, 3 months, and the money is probably going to come back a couple of months later. So Iran is looking into an economic shock, a negative economic shock, if there is a military conflict.
I want to talk to you about the role of China as well, because it is, of course, is the biggest buyer of Iranian oil. Talk to me about the importance of that relationship.
Well, it's very important because what happened with sanctions is that Iran shifted its imports from Europe. Iran's economy was very closely integrated into Western Europe. But in the last decade, Iran has slowly shifted its trade connections to the east, especially to China. China is able to provide Iran with a variety of goods that Iran needs. It hasn't been as active in investing in Iran. There's been much talk, but not much action. So it can't help the economy grow, but it can buy the oil and send back commodities in exchange. Iran is also depending more and more on Chinese political support globally. You know, China was instrumental in getting Iran and Saudi Arabia together. That has been a big boon for Iran's diplomatic power. Iran was invited again by China into the BRICS, which is a alliance of semi-industrialized or emerging economies. And that has been a big source of hope for Iran, that getting out of the Western orbit, there's some other place to go. And that place is kind of vaguely defined by China, Russia, BRICS, and others. We haven't seen actual influence or actually impact from that shift of alliance to China. All we have now is, here's a big country that can buy the oil and can actually ship goods to Iran. But in terms of generating economic growth, we're not sure.
Would it be fair to say then that one effect of the American sanctions is actually to strengthen another regional bloc that it has no interest in strengthening?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's, again, one of the messages that our book emphasizes. Not only there's a shift externally from the West to East, and China and Russia in particular, but there's also a shift inside Iran from private sector and the middle class to big state authorities, including the IRGC.
To that extent, then, would you declare those American sanctions a success or a failure?
Well, definitely a failure if they wanted to create more moderate Iran, which in some way was the ultimate aim of sanctions, to get Iran to behave more to the liking of Western powers. And Iran has defied that. Although I must say sanctions were very successful in doing their first job, which was to cripple Iran's economy, bring its growth to a halt, and hurt the ordinary Iranians, hoping that they would then put pressure on their own government to moderate with respect to Western demands. That also has not happened. So there are success points. Yes, U.S. is got a big power. The dollar is the king, and if you defy the U.S., you better be ready for economic contraction, economic crisis. But can that then translate into a country being subjugated, and changing these policies? And that hasn't happened. If anything, I think Iran has become more aggressive, as it was demonstrated just a few days ago with its attack on Israeli soil.
I want to talk about the larger ramifications of this conflict now and what it could mean for the global economy. The Strait of Hormuz, in particular, has become a real flashpoint in this conflict. Around a fifth of the world's oil passes through here, and in recent months, we've seen a number of attacks on vessels there. Just last weekend, Iran's Revolutionary Guards seized a cargo ship it said was linked to Israel. Javad, talk to me about the kind of disruption to global trade that could occur if Iran and the groups it backs were to step up their attacks in the Strait of Hormuz.
But I suspect that Iran's greatest strength is in its own neighborhood. So when push comes to shove, Iran may decide to close the Strait of Hormuz. It may decide to attack shipping that is closer to the southern shore of Persian Gulf, maybe even attack its newfound allies in terms of Saudi Arabia and UAE. We don't know that, but the closest target would be to cause a crisis in terms of oil exports, which would primarily hurt China and maybe India, but not necessarily Western Europe or the US, which is now self-sufficient in oil. So there is some complex calculation that's going on there. I am not sure Iranians would want to, as first resort, go to closing of the Strait of Hormuz. But then there are other groups like the Houthis, which have now enough technology to disrupt shipping in the Red Sea. They could do similar disruptions in the Persian Gulf. So all in all, I think the region, which is on the cusp of becoming much more developed, the flow of oil money, is facing a kind of disruption that may delay its economic development by a decade.
You mentioned that Iranian backing of some of these groups isn't as significant as we might assume. On that, I'm wondering then how much control they really do have over those activities. If the Houthis choose to carry out attacks and Iran isn't in favor of that, to what extent do they have power over that?
Well, they are allies in many ways, and that means just like Israel has quite a bit of independence from the US, Houthis have independence from Iran, but they don't want to completely break relations. So if Iranians really want to say, we don't want any more ships being hit, I'm sure the Houthis will agree. The only group that Iran has close alliance with, close relationship with, is the Hezbollah. Everybody knows that Hamas is a Sunni organization that has not, in times of crisis, been allied with Iran. Now they appear as allies, or recently they have, but they always side with the general Palestinians are more likely to, like they did with Saddam Hussein when he was fighting Iran. So Iranians are aware that besides the ideological anti-Israel, anti-US alliance they have with some of these groups, only the Shia groups can be trusted with reliance when the going gets tough.
I'd love to end on a personal note. You grew up in Iran. I imagine you still have family and friends there. How are ordinary people faring amid this ongoing tension?
Well, they are not faring well. In fact, most of what our book is about is talking to various people, women, young people, to find out how they imagine their future. And one of the things that sanctions and these kind of tensions tell young people is that the future is bleak. I don't blame them to
The future
want
is
to
bleak.
study more
No
English so they
shit.
can immigrate when they get an offer from a university either in the West or India or Singapore or Malaysia, they pack their bags and leave. If the young people, especially the educated young people, cannot see a future for themselves in the country has a lot of difficulties to grow and to become a normal country. And I don't know if it's possible for Iranians to feel that way. They have the sanctions, they have the looming regional conflict, if not war, but they also have on top of that a lot of social restrictions that the government of Iran imposes on people, especially women. So all of this together, it's very hard to be optimistic about Iran growing, becoming a kind of happier nation for the time being.
A real tragedy of lost potential there. Javad Salehi, Isfahani Professor of Economics at Virginia Tech, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Guys, I'm gonna log off here. I'm gonna sleep a bit, I guess. I woke up really early. I think I still need to go sleep a bit. After that, I have work, and then probably stream later tonight.